Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a forensic breakdown of a very real and honestly very dangerous phenomenon happening in the logistics world. We are going to look at exactly how corporate inaction destroys operational capacity and ultimately drives away top-tier supply chain talent. If you want to understand why operations fail even when you've got amazing people on the floor, you're in the right place.
So, how does a company accidentally force its absolute best leader to resign? It's a critical question. For the supply chain executives joining us today, I want you to view this real-world case study like a slow-motion car crash. And the scary part? It's a crash you might currently be recreating in your own facilities without even realizing it. We're going to deconstruct exactly how systemic neglect breaks your very best people. Here's our roadmap for today, the anatomy of preventable resignation. We'll be moving sequentially through 5 modules, covering the invisible friction, the expansion trap, the hero fallacy, the unheeded warning, and finally, preventable attrition and strategic takeaways. Let's dive right into Module 1, the invisible friction, unseen bugs and missing floor-level escalations. Every crisis has an origin point, right? Ours kicks off with a highly ambitious new operations supervisor who inherits an absolute mountain of baseline deficits on day 1. And we're not talking about minor inconveniences here. We're looking at recurring software glitches deeply embedded in the warehouse management environment that cause persistent data errors. Worse still, there's a total absence of floor-level KPIs that essentially force the team to rely entirely on manual workarounds just to get freight out the door. So what do you do when you're a floor leader dealing with this level of system friction? You escalate it. But regional IT's response to those escalations? Deprioritized. They were, quote-unquote, too busy. This perfectly highlights the immense danger of ignoring early escalations, leaving your local team completely fending for themselves without any sort of safety net.
Moving on to Module 2, the expansion trap, launching major accounts without adjusting operational capacity.
Okay, so the facility's already struggling to keep its head above water. The absolute worst thing leadership could do is flood it with new volume, right? Well, here we see 2 completely colliding realities. On one side, executive action pushes forward the launch of a massive, high-volume warehousing account. On the other side, corporate reality enforces a strict national hiring freeze because of broader economic slowdowns. So they increase the workload exponentially while straight up refusing to add a single unit of headcount. Predictably, the launch is a disaster. This highly complex startup gets dumped onto an unsupported afternoon supervisor who hasn't been given adequate systems guidance. Within just a week, the chaotic fallout is undeniable. You've got unrecorded inventory scattered across the entire dock floor, and because the floor is completely jammed with mismanaged freight, the facility's existing high-velocity next-day retail SLAs are suddenly jeopardized. By trying to grow without support, corporate literally endangered their foundational revenue streams.
Which brings us to Module 3, the hero fallacy, relying on single-point leaders to absorb managerial gaps.
When local management abruptly bails amidst all this chaos, the burden shifts squarely onto our protagonist's shoulders. And this triggers a concept we call the hero fallacy. It's essentially a systemic failure that gets masked by the unsustainable overperformance of a single, highly competent individual. Instead of fixing the broken system or, lifting the hiring freeze, leadership just lazily relies on this one leader to absorb the entire shock.
Now, to save the facility, this newly promoted senior supervisor basically goes into superhuman mode. By day 1, they conduct a complete dock audit. By day 3, they've reestablished receiving logging. Day 5, shift handoffs are fixed. And by day 7, inventory integrity is actually stabilized. But what this neat little timeline hides are the grueling 12 to 14-hour days and weekends required to single-handedly drag the operation back from the brink.
Look at the sheer disconnect here. The gap is staggering. Operationally, you have one person acting as both the site manager and the ops manager, pulling 14-hour shifts to recover the account. Corporately, management assigned this full recovery to a single supervisor without providing a single operational tool or any team support whatsoever. They just watched the hero work and happily accepted the results.
That takes us right into Module 4, the unheeded warning, ignoring data-backed workforce plans during a massive surge.
500%. I really want to let that number marinate for a second. The facility was stabilized by sheer force of will, sure, but our protagonist's physical limits were about to snap. Just as the dock gets stabilized, primary retail accounts experience a massive 500% volume surge, and this hits right as the leader is already stretched entirely too thin, playing multiple roles at once.
Anticipating an imminent collapse, the supervisor does exactly what any good leader should do. Step 1. They formulate and submit a highly detailed, data-backed staffing plan for dock and administrative personnel. Step 2. Executive leadership reviews it and actually acknowledges the absolute necessity of the plan. But then, tragically, in Step 3, executives consciously refuse to act. They stubbornly maintain that strict hiring freeze, providing zero resources despite the overwhelming expansion.
Finally, Module 5, Preventable Attrition and Strategic Takeaways, the breaking point and lessons for supply chain executives.
We've reached the inevitable resolution. It's so vital that we treat this loss of talent not as some random surprise, but as the calculated outcome of unmanaged risk. The breaking point is finally reached. Operating at 3 times their normal capacity and realizing corporate is never going to provide the structural backing needed for long-term success, the leader submits their formal resignation. They walk away simply to protect their own professional standards and well-being.
Here's the harsh reality check for corporate leadership, the true cost of neglect. Refusing to lift that hiring freeze didn't actually save you money. It resulted in the highly preventable loss of a proven, high-yield leader. It caused the immediate evaporation of critical institutional knowledge. It created extreme exposure to client SLAs and bottom-line revenue. Ultimately, it's definitive proof that an unsupported growth model is doomed to fail. So, what's the game plan? What should you take away from this? Here are your strategic leadership lessons for building sustainable systems and retaining your top-tier logistics talent. First, you absolutely have to stop masking systemic gaps with the hero fallacy. Second, you must align operational capacity and headcount with your high-volume account launches. Third, do not ignore those early floor-level escalations. If software is glitching and KPIs are missing, you need to fix them before you scale. And finally, when a competent leader hands you a data-backed workforce plan during a massive volume surge, you have to act on it.
I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on as we wrap up today's explainer. Are your SLAs genuinely protected by sustainable systems, or just the fading stamina of one completely unsupported hero? Take a really hard look at your own organizational charts today and ask yourself who in your facility is currently serving as that hero, and how close are they to breaking? Thanks so much for joining us.